All right, with our experimental setup for the bacteria lab, what we're going to do is we're going to test 3 different antiseptics: 91% rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol, 3% hydrogen peroxide, and iodine. And we're going to be testing it on the bacterium Escherichia coli, or what we like to call E. coli. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of prep my Petri dish. Again, I want to put an X on the bottom, just like that. And again, the bottom is the part that's going to have that auger on it. And then you've got the cover here. So you flip it over and you write on the bottom. Oops. And then I'm going to write down, so I have it all kind of set up and ready, the different things I'm testing. So in the first one, I'm going to have control. The next one, I'm going to put rubbing alcohol. You can abbreviate if you want, so you have more space. Hydrogen peroxide, that's H2O2, so I'm just going to abbreviate it that way. And then iodine. So it will look like that when you are all done. I also want to put my initials, and you'd put your class period. Since I'm just doing this as a demo, I'm not going to add that part in, but you put your period that you're in. You can even add A through K if you want, or L through Z, so it makes more sense. And then, what is your bacteria you're using? So I'm just going to, in one of the little corners, put E. coli, so I know what it is that I swabbed on here. Okay, so we're all done with our labeling. Now it's time for us to put our bacteria on. I'm going to tip it back up so that the cover is on top. I'm going to take one of our sterile swabs. I'll swirl this around a little bit, mix up the bacteria a little bit. Okay, take this up, don't leave it too much uncovered, and I'm just going to swirl my swab in there, pat it a little bit on the side to get the excess off. Cover that up again. And now, while holding your cover at an angle, I'm just going to swab this over the surface. I'm holding this at an angle so any bacteria that are in the air or any mold spores floating around won't get on your agar and infect it. You just want only E. coli in there. I'm going to give it a slight turn, and I'm going to do it again. It's like you're coloring over the surface of that agar. It's like a hard gelatin, so you don't want to dig very firm because you'll dig holes in it. I'm going to give it one last turn. I'm just going to keep swabbing. You can kind of spin your swab a little bit so that you have everything covered on there. You won't see anything because the suspension is clear, but there's bacteria on there. Okay. Now these I'm going to dispose of in a biohazard bag, but for right now at my lab station, I'm just going to leave all my supplies right here so I can dispose of it all at the end if I want. The next thing we want to do is we want to put our different things we're testing onto our plate. And the way that we do that is we use these little tweezers or forceps and then these filter paper discs that have been sterilized. So I have these soaking in rubbing alcohol to keep them as clean as possible. It's very, very important that you do this step where you really dry off that really carefully, because otherwise what you'll be testing is rubbing alcohol and not whatever test substance you're doing. So I'm going to pick up one first of all. Just one of these little discs, and this is a challenging part here. Oops, I should have poured some of this into my container first before I got all excited to do this. So I'm going to pour a little rubbing alcohol in my beaker here, and we'll probably have some beakers set up already for you, so you don't have to worry about that part. And then if you lose your disc in there, you just have to go retrieve it. You guys ever play, do they still have the game Operation, where you have to be really intricate trying to I'll make sure I get it in the right spot. My rubbing alcohol is up in this corner, so I'm going to place my disc right on there and try to center it and kind of fold it up a little bit. So I'm going to kind of pat it down a little bit, and you just want to pat it down so it kind of sticks. Don't dig it into the agar, but just pat it down so it'll stay on there. If you want to center it into that. Again, I'm going to rinse off in between. Ooh, this is a new bottle. Pick up a new disc. Dip it in. Find the right quadrant. My hydrogen peroxide is right here, this one right here. Stick it right in kind of the center of that quadrant and tap, tap, tap to make sure it's secure. Rinse again. I'm just going to pour a little bit of this right into the cap since it has that cap there. This is the iodine. So I'm going to dip some in there. Iodine goes right here in this quadrant. So I'm going to put it right in this center. Sometimes they slide. Tap, tap, tap. Rinse. Dry off really good. And there's two different things you can do. You can either dip yours into your disc into some distilled water that we can put in here, or I'm going to just put a plain disc that doesn't have anything on it to compare what it would be if you just had a plain disc without any cleaner on it. And that's going to be my control group, because remember, your control group doesn't receive the variable being tested. So stick that right on there. And then the last thing that we would do, grab my tape. Put one little piece of tape on one side, and then another little piece of tape, which is tricky to do with these silly gloves. We will have gloves for you tomorrow for part of your safety gear that you wear, and of course you have to wear your safety goggles as well. I am wearing my shield over the top for today, but you guys would have to wear your safety goggles and your masks still. Okay, and that's how we prepare your plate. Now, we always flip it upside down so the bottom is facing up, because you can see there's some condensation there on the cover. We don't want that to drip down while it's sitting in the incubator. And E. coli likes to live in a temperature that's a little bit warmer, 37 degrees Celsius. So we have each of these incubators in the lab room set at a different temperature. And so this one over here, we'll have it labeled E. coli, 37 degrees Celsius. I'll stick it in here, again, with the bottom side facing up, and you're all done. Now you gotta wait 24 hours to see what happened in your experiment.